Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Moon Base Build. I'm CatTrans Gamer and this is part 3. Part 3 we're going to go ahead and get the pieces all put together in the track. To do that we're going to go over to the tracking station, but I'm also going to send an advanced satellite ahead so I can pick out a landing site. And I'll talk about that after I get the pieces put together before I launch it out to orbit. So let's go ahead and go over to the tracking station and we'll get all these pieces together. Alright, so what I did is I ended up fast forwarding all of this, ×4 fast forward post edit or post recording, due to the fact that this is 5 hours of recording that I'm going to jam up in this short little bit of time. But what I got here is I got Alzir Kerbin. I went over and took him to meet up with the little moon hopper that I built to take the pieces over one at a time. So once I got him over to the moon hopper, I took one piece at a time. So right now I'm taking the living quarters over, and I'm manually moving them one at a time to the moon base. And believe it or not, this was the easiest one to do because at this time the moon base was actually lined up, so I could just cycle right on in. And I got myself a little bit too much confidence. But as you look, you see the moon mini hopper over there in the distance, 500 meters away. I originally parked it, I was only 250 meters away. So yeah, it was moving away at a really fast speed relative, because after this I had to then take that little moon hopper and get all the way over to the other base. But what I did is every time as I refilled the mono tanks on the moon hopper so I can get back. But if you see now, look at my mono propellant. I'm almost empty on this. So I decided, once I got the mining module over, I decided to go ahead and just manually hop over real quick, refill my mono tanks. And at this point I started thinking, I could start using those little shock motors there we've got. So from here on out, I started using the shock motors to transport the pieces around. And yeah, I had a hard time docking because unfortunately the station started rotating a lot more than it was, and it made it a lot harder to keep bringing these modules over to meet up with them. But I persevered. I stuck it out. What can we say? I just kept with it and kept trying to line them up. But as you can see, I've got the little batteries there I'm lining up that I put on the bottom in the piece there. I'm lining those batteries up to tell me that I'm almost, I'm in the right spot. So I line everything up like it was when I built it. And it worked for all except for one module. I don't remember which module exactly. We'll see it. I think it was one of the fuel tanks, the one with the extra clampetron port on there for the refueling thing. And then I got bored in between the two and decided I'm going to go ahead and try to land this rocket, the booster here, the center booster. And I did it. I came in at high speed. I had so much fuel on it. I was like, okay, I'll just come in, see if I can burn the fuel and drop it off. And the reason the camera's moving around so much is I wanted to see if anything was overheating, getting too much flame out. But what I did is I sat there and set it to follow prograde orbit, or sorry, follow retrograde orbit. So it literally, the whole time I'm thrusting against my the direction I'm moving, which was good because it put me right into a nice straight up and down coming to the water. It was all working great, and I was like, yay, we're gonna make it, we're gonna make it. And well, it was really hard to keep the thrust just right. It was constant back and forth on the thrust, and I did land it. twice. You'll see here in a second. Let's see. Yep, 80, 70, 65. There we go. And we're about to hit the water. There's the first one. And then I forgot to turn the motor off. Hit the water again. And this is where everything went wrong. But we get a chance to look at a rare school of monopropellant tanks floating around in the Kerbin oceans that is very, very hard to ever see. So if you ever get a chance to see that, get a picture. Anyways, now it's back to the second module set that I had. Here's me trying to get a rendezvous set up and get it into the closest position I can. And then I finally get it over there, and I'm like, yay. Fold up all the solar panels so I can start moving these over. And this is the module I had where the battery was actually on the wrong side. I don't know what went wrong. I think this is when I went to go save them. I ended up putting the battery in the wrong position, but it was 90 degrees out of place, which is okay. You know, things like this do happen, but I was able to, because on this one I had the Clampetron on there. I was able to figure out, okay, I need to spin it around and get it in place. So what I did is I worked on trying to get it in the right 90 degree attitude, and then that's when I decided to spin it around, and I got it in place. I kind of cut there a little bit too early, sorry about that. And then this one, all I had to do was line up the battery. Same thing. I got it into a nice little angle. And unfortunately, this is, you see the angles I was approaching these things at. And at this time, you know, we're looking at 5 hours into the recording of this, just trying to put these pieces together. And it's not 5 hours of crash, redo, crash, redo. No, it was literally 5 hours of constant gameplay. It took me that long to get these things across the space, basically. Lining up the orbits, waiting for the orbits to line up, and then getting each piece individually. And the fuel tanks actually, due to the weight that they had and mass. But let's go ahead and get to these advanced probe builds. Alright, this advanced satellite that I'm going to be sending up is going to be for two particular devices. It's going to be for the survey scanner and the narrow band scanner. The reason is because I sent all that mining equipment up, and this is what's going to help us find the mining equipment, is these. So let's go ahead and build the rocket that's going to send them up. And I'm going to do that with one of these guided units right here. And then off of that, yeah, I picked the wrong guided unit. Hold on. I wanted the 2.5 meter guided unit. This one. The RCL01. Because I want to put the 2.5 meter protective arrow shell on there. Followed by... and this one. There we go. Actually, no. I won't need that. I'll need this thing. That's right. Followed by that. Now I'm having to build these satellites backwards, and I'm putting up two of them because I'm going to launch them into orbit at the same time, and I'm going to send one to Mun and one to Minmus. So you can see how I'm building this thing, and I'm using just a little tiny spark liquid fuel engine on that. Now fuel. And then each one of those is going to need a probe body to control it. Yeah. And then we're going to need structural. And then we'll just attach these just like that. And you know what? We should go ahead and add a battery real quick. Nope, wrong one. There we go. And now we need solar. That's all we really need on this advanced craft. Is because all we're doing is we're going to put these in orbit and they're going to scan. This is going to do the initial scan using the survey scanners. And it's going to scan the planet for ore. And then these will give us a more detailed scan once it's done. And you want to put these in like a polar orbit. So let's go ahead and structural, let's strut these up so they don't come apart on flight. I always gotta love it when things don't quite go quite as planned on how you're trying to place stuff. There we go. That'll work. And now what we do is we just come back down to this, the arrow shield, and we place it right back down, and we can start placing the fairing around. That's going to protect them while we do our launch. Okay. And then from there on, it's pretty much your basic rocket build for getting things up in orbit. So I just thought of it. I need to actually change the fuel tank to the larger fuel tank. That'll work. Okay, so from here we start, we're working with 2.5 meter parts, yep. engine that could. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, I think you're going to find this build a little interesting because of how I'm going to put it together. So no, I can get away with these. No, I can't. I need the space, that's right. Okay, I grabbed the wrong one. Oops. Okay. There we are. You got to make sure with this build you set it up like that. Because what I'm going to do now is build on the booster rockets. And the booster rockets are right there. And I do this one at a time right now. So now we go aerodynamic. And this is a nifty little trick. Do type connector B. And I want, yeah, 4 of them will work. Okay, I gotta get this craft up a little bit higher. I don't know if B is gonna work. Let's see here. Do 6 of them. Offset. Go back to offset. Now we gotta push them up. Nope, I want it up, not in. There we go. And what I just did is I just built myself a place to place a whole bunch of these little motors into this stack. Look at that. Now that's a booster rocket. It's got 6 swivels and 1 radiant or reliant motor engine on it, which are going to give us a better ISP than tossing one of those twin bores on there for thrust, which means it'll burn the fuel better. So let's go back over to aerodynamics, grab our nose cone. Then what we want to do is put our struts and our fuel line in. Now we just come over here, grab this, go 2, and place them right down. Yep, that'll work. Let's go ahead and add a little more structural support on this. There we go, and okay, so now let's see. We've got, there's our 2 Reliants, 12 swivels. We need these to go off at the same time. And we want this to go off. Where are those 2? Ah, okay. Then we got our stack separator. Vertical separator with this motor. And we've got, I want to separate them. So there we go. So yeah, there we go. That should be our craft right there to launch us. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add 1 more fuel tank on this. Should be able to afford the weight. Yeah. Okay, let's get this thing in orbit real quick, and I'll go ahead and fast forward this, so enjoy the music, and I will see you guys once I get this thing in orbit, and then I'll start talking about the maneuver nodes to get to Mun or Minmus. So see you guys in a few. Alright, this launch, well, it started out perfectly normal. I tried to do it just like any other launch, and very quickly did I realize that we're just moving way too fast here. As you can see, I really start trying to move this thing over, but I'm trying to do it in such a way without having to put that aeroshell too far out of the airstream, the direction of flow of air that we're moving. So it ended up forcing me into a much higher arch than I was originally planning. But once I got up high enough and the air was no longer a factor, dropped the aero shield, and then was able to get myself to where I can start stretching out the orbit and everything. And now that I'm out in the space, as you can see, I'm pretty high up there, already sitting at 125 kilometers above Kerbin, and just trying to circularize my orbit now. So I figured out I had too much fuel and decided I'm going to ditch that first stage. Okay, so I put a little bit too much thrust on this thing. It got up orbit quick. But I'm going to ditch this off so it drops into the back into Kerbin orbit, the main stage. And that's good enough. So we'll go ahead and detach that. Give us a slight burn of thrust to get us moving away from it. And look at that. It's going to drop off around 39,000. So all we need to do is burn a little bit more to bring our periaps up. There we go. So yeah, I ended up in a high orbit. I mean, there's our base right there. And that's only flying at 88,000 meters. So yeah, we got this thing moving a lot faster, quicker. So yeah. So I didn't even need this whole stage here, technically. But hey, overkill's overkill. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in here and decouple this. And then switch over to that craft. Okay, so now I got it pulled away. We'll go ahead and activate the solar panel. And then let's get an orbit to Mun. Now, Mun and Minmus actually, we'll do Minmus on this one because it's closer to where we want. Mun and Minmus, you both can do the orbit the same way. What you do is you get this set up to about 90 degrees. So here's Kerbin, 90 degrees out, there's Minmus. And then you come right down to the very bottom and you add a maneuver. The bottom of Kerbin. Now what we do is we just extend this orbit out, and right around 800 meters per second you'll hit a Mun orbit. And then to get to Minmus, come on. To get a Minmus orbit, it's not much more. So what you do is you set as target, and you find out how close you're getting. And you see, okay, that's why. I gotta do a plane change. Nope, that's not gonna work. I gotta do a plane change before I go to Minmus. So we'll go ahead and get this one going to Mun. So again, 90 degrees out, set as target, and then right there about straight down at the bottom of Kerbin, and always set it up so it's on the right hand side. Add a maneuver node, and about 800 meters per second you will have a Mun encounter. So we pull this out till about 800 meters per second. Look at that, 800 meters per second, and there's our encounter. Now all we gotta do is try to get us a little better orbit here. Okay, what's our periapse? 51,000. That'll be perfect for what I want to do. Okay, so now we set maneuver node. Tell it to go to the maneuver node. And you see I'm only using this little spark motor, spark engine. I'm going to go ahead and retract the panels, because you don't ever want to do maneuvers while panels are extended, because that's not, it's initial burns, you don't want to be doing that. Once you're out in deep space where you're only doing slow, long burns, that's something different. Okay? And this says with this motor, it's going to take 2 minutes 43 seconds. So I'm going to have to manually fast forward. Actually, let's see what happens if I go full thrust. Yeah, it's going to take 240 to do this. So I want to start burning at about 1 minute 20 seconds. So it's going to take 800 meters per second to get there and about 800 meters per second to get into orbit of thrust. Now, am I going to have enough fuel to do that? I'm pretty sure I will. Go ahead and skip past this and get to just before 1 minute 20. Well, actually, I don't need to skip. I thought I was further out. Okay. So yeah, you see, it's 2 minutes 40 seconds to burn to get to orbit. So we'll go ahead and speed up time, speed this up a little bit. And look how fast I'm burning fuel. I mean, at 4 times speed, I'm only burning half a liter a second. That's why I said this little spark engine goes a long way on these satellites. And if you notice, we're almost pointed straight at it. There we go. So this satellite's now off on its way to Mun. We will go back to our other ship, which is right here. And we'll get this one going off to Minmus. We might need to yeah, we're going to need to do a little bit of adjustment on the other one. But let's set as target. And when Minmus, you want to do a plane change. See the ascending node at 6.4 degrees off. So that's one thing you want to remember. Let's go ahead and point towards prograde. So I launch this thing in the right way. And what we'll do is decouple that, send that probe off on its own. As soon as the motor's clear, flip this thing around to retrograde. And I'm going to drop my orbit down below 20 meters, 2 kilometers per second, sorry. Okay, there we go. And we'll go back over to that other spacecraft. Switch to. Now, so we can identify these, I'm going to go ahead and rename this real quick. So there, I've renamed this one Minmus Advance. And let's get to there we go. Now these little spark engines don't make any power. So that's why I also put on the solar panels. But what we're going to want to do is come over to this ascending node. Add a maneuver. I'm going to click on descending node so I can watch it. And I'm going to grab the anti-normal node and bring it down. And you see how it's descending nodes now dropping? So we're starting to get a plane change in there that's going to match with Minmus. So there we are. We're going to point towards our maneuver node. And we will warp to next node. That's 238 meters per second. That's a lot of speed we got to gain there. So we're going to burn a lot of speed we normally would gain to get to Mun right there. I don't know why our staging's not there, but go ahead and activate the engine so we can get our estimated burn time there. Now normally you would do a plane change and a maneuver at the same time, but Minmus is out of sync for that. So we're gonna have to do the plane change and then the intercept maneuver. But see why this one here, no time at all, and it's barely putting a dent in our fuel. Come on. I want to extend the panels real quick so we can get some power back in there. And we'll get our node set up for this. So again, get Minmus at about 90 degrees out, so all the way to the right. And if you're having a hard time getting the maneuver node where you want it, just zoom straight in. And then put it at the bottom of Kerbin. And I extend this out at about 820, 830 meters per second. We should have a Minmus encounter. Oh, I was off on that. How far out do we gotta go? Nope. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get our encounter close, because I want to be somewhere with that big scanner, survey scanner. You want to be somewhere between 25 kilometers and 300 kilometers for Minmus, and for Mun you want to be between 25 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers for Mun. So I want to get that periaps down. So 55, that'll work. And that's 864 meters per second. So we only needed another, what, 64 meters per second to achieve Minmus versus Mun, if you don't count the fact that we had to do that plane change. And if you do it right, you can actually incorporate the plane change into your launch, so you don't have to burn as much. And for some reason it says it's only going to give us, we only need to do a 16-second burn. Well, I know that's wrong. Go ahead and retract panels. See, 2 minutes 41 seconds that time. So go ahead and speed it up. Times warp 4, and we'll burn right through this maneuver. And we'll extend that panel back out and let it just absorb the sun's ray and keep it full. Now you see that we've used up a lot of the fuel to get here to this point now on this one, but I'm still not worried. I'm pretty sure I can get it into an orbit around Minmus. So let's go back to our Mun probe. And we'll come in here, rename this thing real quick. I don't know why I've got a maneuver node here. Nope, want that. Okay. This is our Mun advance. So and I want to do another maneuver, but I'm going to do it right about here, halfway. And then I'm going to switch over to Mun. So I can get a better view of what's going to happen when we intercept. So extend that out so we can get our intercept. Okay. And I want to put this in a polar orbit. So I'm going to have to do a plane change here. Probably bring it back. Nope. There we go. Okay. That'll be a polar orbit, but I can fix that once we get closer. So let's see, how bad's the damage? 32 meters per second. So that's barely going to use up any of our fuel. It's close enough. Now, let's add a maneuver here and see what happens if I, oops, not that one. Speed up as I approach. Yeah, I'm going to have to wait till I get into orbit for that. Because I'm going to have to circularize the orbit. So. Alright, where's our Minmus one? We'll do the same thing with this one. Switch to our Minmus Advance. And this is what's nice about like launching two of them at a time. You can keep yourself kind of busy. And see, I don't have an intercept anymore. But that's okay. Now we'll go switch over to Minmus. So we can see what happens when we mess with this maneuver node. Oops. Well, that's gonna work because I need it under 300 meters or 300 kilometers. Sorry. So that will work right there. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now you notice I'm a minute away from this maneuver, but I don't need to wait for that minute to activate this maneuver. I can go over it. I can go under it because the further you are away from an object, the more changes. No matter what, you can do your maneuvers. The speeds are more important than the time. So I'm just going to give it a little tiny bit of thrust. And there we are. So we'll close that out. And you see how it's really doesn't know what to do? That's because it's so touchy right now. Once we get closer, we might change it up a little bit. So there, we've got our advances going now. And as you can see, this video is taking a lot longer than I was planning. So I will see you guys in the next video when we take the moon base to Mun and Minmus. Until next time, bye!